Hi everyone, good evening. So yesterday we were talking about availability zones and availability set and the difference between availability zone and set. Availability zone is going to give redundancy of availability zones. High availability you are going to get whenever, even though if the availability zone is down, one of the availability zone, but availability set is not going to give high availability on availability zone. So you are going to get only fault domain and update domain, which is rack level and server level redundancy you are going to get, not the availability zone. That is what we discussed, and we also discussed we call rack as a fault domain and server as an update domain, and how to create availability set by giving based upon the requirement, like fault domain 2, update domain 5 values or 4 values based on how many servers we want to launch for our application. Based on that calculation, we need to create the availability set, right? And after that we discussed a few options of the virtual machines. So today we'll discuss the remaining options, and then it will be close of virtual machine concept. From Monday onwards we'll talk about networking sessions. Okay, the first day on Monday it will be like basic networking, like what is IP, how it got created, what is class A, class B, class C, what is public subnet, private subnet, static IP, dynamic IP, some basic information before directly jumping into the VNet. We'll talk about networking concepts, and then Tuesday onwards we'll talk about VNet creations. Okay, VNet peering, NSGs, all these things. Okay, so yesterday I deleted the virtual machine, whichever I created. So quickly I'll create the virtual machine, Windows virtual machine. I'll create it, and then we'll do the remaining practice. So I'll just select Galaxy Test as a resource group name, and I give some name to this machine. And I'm selecting no infrastructure is required, and image is Windows Server by default, and the username is Galaxy admin, and provided the password, and this is an RDP. And disks, I'm going to give one additional disk also, so that I can explain you about the snapshot creation. Create an additional disk, and here I will just give name of data disk and change the size. I don't want 1 TB, I just want 4 GB of size. And here, and delete this disk whenever the VM gets deleted. Okay, and after that, networking, all this remaining stuff we no need, we already discussed. I just go and click review and create, so that it will get created. So first we'll start with the snapshot, creating a snapshot of a VM, and how to restore the snapshot, that we'll discuss. And remaining options when in the VM page, whenever it got deployed in the sense here, created. Don't think the pipeline deployment or DevOps concept. Deployment here means the creation. If you see here deployment is in progress, means creation. So once it get created, and in the meantime we'll see Manju, how are you going to cover entire networking concept? Entire means what? I did not understand. Audio is not clear. Is it for everyone or only for Sada Siva Saho? Mm, uh, are you going to cover? Your voice not getting very slow. Is it so? Is it for everyone? Am I audible properly, or everyone is facing voice issues? Okay. Are you conducting weekend? No, not weekends. Getting low. I don't think so. Okay, so VM is created. Now let me go to the home page and go to the machine, this Windows machine. So here, yesterday we were talking about this basic whatever the information which is inside this tab, right? So if you talk about access control IAM, so this is we'll discuss when we talk about Active Directory, to whom you want to give access. Based upon this IAM policies, we can decide for which kind of team or specific individual users. If you want to give access, we can give access to that specific person. So it's like a same like in AWS IAM, but more than that, not like IAM. This is integrated with the Active Directory. So we can give permissions, like what kind of permissions we want to assign, and whether a user can able to access or not a Windows machine. And these are tags, as I discussed. Whenever you create a VM, it will ask for tags. It's better to provide a tags like name and value. Windows server, Windows test server, Windows development server, or Windows 2016 OS server, like specifically, and multiple names, multiple tags also you can provide. And we already discussed about diagnose, like most of the issues, common issues, they collected and they provided the solution. Like here we can resolve most of the problems if any VMs are getting failed, like connectivity issues, performance issues, or public IP assigning issue, whatever it may be. The basic clients who were facing the issues, based on those incidents, they collected and they provided self-diagnostic solution over here. And networking, we'll talk more about when we start VNet. But here, in which VNet your VM is available, and what is the public IP, and what is the private IP of your VM. All this information is available, and this is the main important port. If you delete this port, then we cannot able to connect to the Windows machine. And connect, if this is a Windows machine, so through RDP we can able to connect, and Linux machine we can connect through the Linux this SSH. This we talk about later, admin center. And disks, now we talk about the disks. So if you see here, one OS disk is there and one data disk is there. So now we can create a snapshot of this disk. So before creating a snapshot, first of all, what is the purpose of snapshot? Taking the backup of your data. So if something happens, your data has been deleted or your disk has been corrupted, then you can restore with the snapshot. So how to take the snapshot, we'll see. But before that, we'll connect to the server and we'll put some data inside the data disk, and then we'll create a snapshot. We'll take the backup, assuming like there is some application data inside the disk. So for that, I will take the IP. So I just want to take the public IP so that I can connect to this machine. And here RDP, connect to it and providing the credentials. So this is a Windows server which we created. And we can able to see the new disk. If it is not available, then we need to create it. So by default, the data disk is not available. Only I can see OS disk. So we can just right click on the start menu and we can go to the disk management here. So inside this disk management, we can format and create a new disk here. MBR. Okay. So if you see here, this is a disk 2 unallocated. So right click, simple volume, new, next NTFS file system, format it, done. So now you can see this is a new drive. So inside this new drive, we already discussed about this yesterday in detail, temporary storage, which is getting from the physical server storage. And these two are getting from the external storage sandbox. So F drive, and I can create some data inside this one. Because we cannot run any application right now, just assuming this is our application data. So Control C. So assume this is our application data. Now inside this F drive, this is a data disk which contains application data, and we need to take the snapshot. So now there is some data. I am going to take snapshot from the Azure, and then we'll delete this data, and again we will restore with the snapshot. See how it will work. Private IP, you can see it from here. See Windows, this tab is there, right? In the networking tab, you can see here. This is the private IP. 10 series IP is assigned to the this VM, and this is a public IP. Got it? So let me go to the disks now. And I'm going to take the snapshot of this data disk. So click on this data disk, and you can see here create snapshot of this data disk. So we are going to take the snapshot of this data disk, create it, and the name is data disk snap. This is the name I'm providing, and here snapshot type full or incremental. Full means the complete disk it is going to be taken into the backup. Make a complete read-only copy of the selected disk. Incremental means save on storage cost by making a partial copy of the disk based on the difference between the last snapshot. So what's the difference between these two is uh, like for example, you have this F drive. Okay, this is an F drive which is available now. We are going to take the snapshot. Assume here some 100 files are there. So 100 files for the first time, whenever we are taking, obviously we'll take the full backup. Then complete 100 files is going to come inside this snapshot. And next time, next day onwards, you don't need to take the full backup. You can take the incremental backup. So what does it mean incremental backup? Next day, out of these 100 files, assume 10 files has been modified. Some data has been modified inside that. So in the incremental backup, whenever you are selecting incremental backup, only those 10 files will be inside the backup. So no need to have the complete backup, because whatever the changes happen from the last backup, yesterday this backup is available. After that, whatever the changes has been done, only those things will be backed up. So these 10 files will be backed up, because remaining all you have the full backup. So next day also, like daily, you can take incremental backup itself instead of taking the full backup. In real time, like weekly we'll take one full backup, and then remaining days it will be like a incremental backup. Okay, so that you are going to have the complete data, and you can save a lot of storage, because in the incremental backup it is going to take only these 10 files, and you can save a lot of space here. because already we have one full backup which contains all the data, and with help of this you can able to restore in future if you want. Understood? So as of now we are creating full backup because this is the first time we are taking, so I'm not going to take incremental backup. So incremental backup, full backup I'm selecting. This is a source type is this by default selected, subscription everything is selected, and this is generation, like VM generation latest generation is 2. If you see, generation 2 will use the boot architecture as a UEFI based, and so VM generation 1 is the old method BIOS based, and VM architecture is 64-bit. And storage type means backend when you are taking the snapshot where you want to store it. So here standard SGD, premium SSD, zone redundant. Zone redundant means it's more chargeable. Why? Because your backup is going to store in all the zones in this region. In this US region, how many availability zones are there? In those many availability zones, it is going to have the backup, so it's costly. And premium SSD means high advanced storage, so you are going to store the snapshot data in the SSD drives, and this is standard SSD is like hard drive, so less price, but we recommend go with the standard HDD only. Why? Because this is a backup, so there will be no read write operations on your backup, so we go with the HDD only, and we don't want premium SSD. Premium SSD when it will use in the production environment, lot of transactions read write operations are happening, then we'll go with the premium SSD. For backup we don't want high quality storage drives, so we'll go with the standard only. And then encryption, do you want any server side encryption? Server side means the yesterday we discussed, right? This box, the physical box is contains the hypervisor, so that hypervisor what it is going to do, it is going to encrypt the data which is coming inside this disk. If you don't want, you can ignore that. Instead of the plain text format, like it will be encrypted. Encrypted means non-human readable format, it will going to be stored. And networking, here whenever you create this disk, enable public access from all networks means what? Public access means even I can able to mount this snapshot into my local desktop also from that cloud, the VM which got created. From there I can able to mount the snapshot into my local drive also, my laptop, if you select this option public access. No, if you don't want public but only internally, internal in the means within the virtual machine network, the VNet, when we talk about VNet, at that time the network whatever it will be there inside that network only, that will be accessible. And you don't want anything public and private, you can select this option, but I'll select the first option. And advanced, allow data access with Active Directory authentication for snapshot. This is advanced option. This option will work with the Active Directory. And what is the purpose of this is, if you select this option here, enable data access authentication mode, so generally in real time everything will work with the Active Directory only. All the employees who are working in the organizations, their username passwords, whenever they go to office, log into their laptop or log into the servers, the user account which they use, it will be created in the Active Directory. So based upon your role and your team, you are going to have the access, specific access will be there to each and every URL or servers or whatever it may be. So now Active Directory, when Active Directory, if you enable this from the Active Directory, you can manage to whom you want to give access to these snapshots, whether it's a read access or a delete access, everything you want to give from there, you can manage it from the Active Directory point of view. If you don't enable this option, then this cannot be managed from the Active Directory. So in the Active Directory, all the users will be created, and from there you can allow, or you want to block one user to go and access the snapshots, so you are going to give permissions to a users, so that way you can manage it. So now I don't want to select it because we are not using any Active Directory now. And as usual, tags and review and create. So snapshot will get created. Once this gets created, then this is a snapshot. So we can use this snapshot and we need to create a new disk with this snapshot, and that disk need to be attached to the VM. And once snapshot is created, snapshot is done, created, we have a full backup snapshot. Now I'll go to the server and Windows server, and I'll delete all these files. Control A, shift to delete. Yes, 162 items I want to delete. I deleted everything. And now mounting means, explain briefly. Mount means, see here, this just now there was no F drive, right? So very simple way, for your laptop, whenever you are connecting a pen drive, which is called, it is a mounting. Before you are connecting a pen drive, there will be no drive it is going to show. But when you put the pen drive, then immediately it will show with some drive H, or it will show you some same way icon it will show. Then you will open the drive and you can access the pen drive content, right? That is called mounting. Understood? Same way, this snapshot which is created, that can be accessible in my local laptop as a separate drive. So physically it is not in my laptop, but I am accessing that drive which is created as a OS snapshot in the virtual machine. From there I can able to access. That is called mounting. Okay. And now I deleted these files. I'll go back to the VM, and what we need to do here, go to the disks to the same VM, and here create and attach it, because directly you cannot attach a snapshot to a VM. It should be a disk. So you need to create a disk, create and attach a new disk. And here if you see the second row, and here give a name. So I'm going to give restore data disk. This is the name I'm providing. And here if you scroll right side, there you can see one edit button. Click on this edit button, and here you can see source type. Here you need to select non-empty disk, means it's going to create one plain managed disk. But we are not going to create a plain managed disk. We are restoring from the snapshot. The disk which we are creating, that is getting restored from the snapshot. So drop down here, select snapshot, and then snapshot. Which snapshot? This is a snapshot name I am selecting previously, which was created. So select this, and you can change the size. It's not, no need to be 4 GB only. You can change the size if you want, and no need of key management. Okay. Then what we are going to do? We are going to save now. Once this is saved, this disk will be attached to the server. Again, because we are attaching additional disk to the server. So this disk is not an empty disk, contains data because it was copied or restored from the snapshot. So whenever you are creating a disk out of a snapshot, always remember, once you go to the server, by default it will not show here. So what we are going to do, we are going to the disk management, and see here you can see new disk called disk 3. Okay, right click, make it online. That's it. Don't format it, because this contains the data. If you format it, whatever the existing data will be there, it will be erased. This is not an empty disk to format and mount it. So see, automatically it's allocated one drive letter G here. And if I go here, you can see G with 4 GB. And inside this, if you go here, the complete data is available, because this disk is restored from the snapshot. So that's why it is available. And always remember, don't format it. Don't create a new drive out of it. Okay. Otherwise it will be erased everything, and you don't see any restored data. And in the F drive, you see already we deleted. That's why we don't see any data. So this way we can able to restore data disks. Okay. And same way we can restore the OS disks also. We can take snapshot of OS disk and we can restore with the OS disk. Can't we restore to F drive? No, it's not possible. Because what they're assuming, there might be problem with the F drive. See, very rarely human will delete the files, right? Mostly if the F drive is not working, it's corrupted, or backend from wherever it got allocated, it is having some problem. That's why they don't want again to restore into the same drive. Same way we can do with the OS disk, but only difference is you can have multiple data disks, but you cannot have multiple OS disks, because your machine needs only one disk to boot. So the booting related stuff will be available only on the one disk. So this way you cannot do that. Only thing is swap OS disk, means existing disk will be removed in the sense swapped. Okay, whatever the new disk which you create from the snapshot, that will be swapped with this one. That is the only difference between snapshot of OS disk and a snapshot of data disk. Okay, so same way we are going to do. Again, we'll go to the Windows disk, click on it, and create snapshot, and here provide the name OS disk snap. This is the name I'm providing. Full backup I'm taking, and this also I'm using as a standard SGD. Encryption, networking, same enable public access, same details I'm using. Here I'm not selecting anything. Tags not required, and create. So snapshot is getting created of the OS disk. They will CHARE means what? Charge, you mean to say, Santosh? Yeah, they will charge. Whatever the disks you are using, obviously they will charge. So snapshot is done. Now again, I'll go back to the VM and go to the disks here. And what we can do, we need to create a disk from the snapshot, whatever we got created. But before that, I forgot. Uh, let's take one more snap. Okay. So what I'll do for testing purpose, on desktop we'll create some files, because whatever we store on the desktop, it will be stored in the C drive only, right? So we create some files. Same way testing we can do whether it's getting restored or not. Some 4 files I created, and now again uh, I'm going to take the snapshot. So go this and create a snapshot. OS disk snap latest. This is the name I'm providing. Okay, latest one. So that what are the files I created, those will also captured in previous, not zone redundant, standard STD, networking by default, advanced not required, tags, and create. So create it. So snapshot is getting created of the OS disk. Once this is gets created, then we can able to. So go to the resource now. Right now I'm the at the OS disk snap latest, and with this we need to create a disk. So right now I'm using this snapshot. Directly I cannot attach the snapshot to the VM, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to create a disk here now. So with this snapshot, so create a disk, and disk name restore OS disk. This is the name I'm providing. Availability zone not required, and remaining details everything. See, if you see source type is from snapshot, we are creating this disk. So remaining details, and by default OS disk is 128 GB. For testing purpose, we can change it. We can make it as a 256 or maybe 512. So okay, I'm change it to 256 GB now. Now encryption, networking by default, advanced, enable shared disk means this option was not available for the data disk. Why it is showing here? Because this is an OS disk snapshot. So with this snapshot, you can create multiple VMs also. So this is like an image. So you can use this snapshot to create other VMs also. So it is asking, if you share this, then this snapshot is going to, or disk is going to be used. If you just go and attach this disk to any of the VM, then if you power on, that VM will come online. So is it okay for you to share that? But if you select yes, then it is going to be face the performance issue on this particular disk. So that's why we don't select yes. Enable on demand busting, allow this disk to burst beyond original provision target. Means if you select yes, then obviously lot of other VMs are using this disk, then performance issue will face. So if that is the case, you want more performance related stuff like more IOPS, Mbps is going to be get. So we don't need all these things as of now. And this is already be discussed. Data access authentication mode. Through Active Directory, we can control to whom we need to provide access, to whom we need to block. Review and create. So from the snapshot of OS disk, we are creating a new disk, and this disk we should swap with the existing disk. You cannot have parallel two disks like data disk, so you should swap it. And before that, again we should go and delete this data. Shift to delete. Yes, to testing. And now go to the VM. Let's swap it. Disks, and here you can see swap OS disk. Click on it, and you can see restore OS disk, the same one, restore OS disk with 256 GB. So select this restore OS disk, confirm you want to swap the OS disk for this VM by entering the name of the VM. Okay, because if the snapshot is not taken properly, or if is any problem, then your VM is also not going to up. So that's why it's warning kind of thing like, are you sure you want to swap it? Yes. Okay. But whenever you do, if you see here, stopping virtual machine. So on fly you cannot do. So it is going to stop and start because you are changing the OS disk. So on fly it is not possible. So once it is stopped and start, then again we can go and check that. Yeah, we know both are correct. See, if we are taking, it should be snapshot for data restoration. I'm showing like this is also possible. OS disk also you can take the backup. We have another session for image backup, all the stuff that is separate. And this is also possible. Okay, to take the snapshot of the OS disk and we can restore it. So this is done. OS disk swap is completed. Refresh it. Now if you see disk name, restore disk. Okay, and now the size is also changed from here it is showing 256. I think server got disconnected. Now I need to have the public IP. Mostly I think the same IP it is using. I don't think it is using the same IP. So I should go. This is a public IP. RDP. I think it's the same IP. Maybe it is taking time to boot. That's why I cannot able to connect to it. Cannot. One of this is remote. Not enabled. Remote is turned off. It shows server is in. Oh, I think it's in stop state. I need to start it. Went to stop state. So I need to start it. Once it is started, then we can able to connect. Can you just please repeat about shared disk option? OS disk, same like data disk. See, we have two types of disks, right? One is data disk, one is OS disk. Data disk contains data, whether for whatever reason you created this server, the application or database to put the database or to deploy the application that contains the data. So you can take the backup of the data of that data disk and you can restore it whenever it required. If something happens, deleted the files or corrupted, or maybe your disk is having any problem. Same way for whatever you're doing for data disk, same way you can do it for the OS disk also. So you can take the snapshot of the OS disk and you can create a new disk with the snapshot, and that disk you are going to swap it. So when you swap it, the old OS disk will be swapped with the new one. So your OS got corrupted, your OS is not functioning properly, any files has been bootable related, or maybe any OS related files has been deleted. If you want to restore, in case if you have a full backup of properly functioned OS disk with you, then you can restore it. For that purpose, we can use this option. Okay. Now, yeah, I can connect. Let me try to connect RDP. Connect. Yes. Mm, yeah, you need to delete because it's up to you whether you want to delete it or want to keep it. By default, Azure will not delete them. You can delete by your own. See, now I deleted those files, but with the restore, we can able to see those files, and let's see whether size has been increased for C drive. So if you see, still it is showing 126 GB only. Now you need to go to the disk management. And here if you see, unallocated 129 GB is unallocated. Mm, Extend volume. You just use extend volume. Okay, completed. Now if you go here, just refresh, 256 GB has been allocated, because while we were restoring with the snapshot, we change the size of the disk. So instead of 128 GB, we change it to 256 GB. So now it is changed into the 256 GB. So this way we can able to restore the snapshots. We can create the snapshots and we can restore. Understood? So this is about the snapshots creation and restoration for the data disks and the OS disks. What is what is single file restore? Those kind of restorations, again we'll have a backend backup. Okay, Commvault backup. This kind of backups will be there, like how we used to have in the traditional data center. With that only you can able to restore those kind of single files. Or else whatever the backup which we are going to talk, in that way also it is possible to restore single files, which we'll talk in the backup sessions. There is a separate session on that. Now, and we discussed about this. Now disks and size. Coming to the size, it's just a resizing of your VM. If your VM is performing very poor because of the low resources, then if you want to increase it, you can increase the VM size. So currently if your VM is having 2 CPUs and 4 GB RAM, and you want to change it to 4 CPUs and 16 GB RAM, or maybe something else, maybe 2 CPUs 8 GB RAM. I think current this VM is having 2 CPUs 4 GB RAM. So if you want to change, you can change it, but it is going to be restart your VM. I'm changing it to 2 to 8. Previously it was 2 to 4. So resize it. Resizing virtual machine. So in future, if your application previously in the traditional data center for your uh, VMs, VMware team or Windows team used to increase the resources, CPU, how much you want, how much memory you want. Same way here, based upon the requirement, you can increase the resources of your VM, or you can decrease also. If the VM is not utilizing the enough resources, then you can reduce the resources also by selecting the lesser value. So successfully reset virtual machine. And if you go to overview, mm, if you see here, 2 CPUs 4 GB RAM. Now you can see it changed to B2, but I think I selected 4 GB RAM or 8 GB RAM. It was previously B1, now it's showing B2. But size, I think I changed 8 GB RAM, right? Or let's go with this one, D D series, 2 CPUs or maybe 4 CPUs, 16 GB RAM. Resize. So resizing the virtual machine to B4MS. So it is done. Let's go and see now B4MS, but I selected 4 GB, 4 CPUs and 16 GB. Somehow it is not showing properly. 2 CPUs and 8 GB RAM it is showing. Okay. So this way you can change your size of this VM. You can increase or decrease based upon the requirement. Advisor recommendations successfully refreshed. Okay. So advisor recommendations means Microsoft will advise you whether what are the VMs you are creating, whether it's correct or not. Like, are you giving proper configuration, uh, whether you enable the backup for your VMs, and whether you are selected the correct size, or whatever the size you created, whether it is utilizing properly or not. Based on this calculation, they will give you some advice. Okay, advisor recommendations. And you have another service also, like advisor. Okay, this is different. And if you see here advisor, and here they will tell you security cost wise, they will recommend you. Okay, they will give some advice whether it is reliability or not, whatever the configuration you selected, or is it secured or not, did you miss any security configurations. All these things they will tell you. Same way this one, what Samsung S, we don't have any automate option to increase or decrease VMs. Automate option means you need to do that. You need to create an automation. Okay, so same way here also, um, in the advisor recommendation, it will recommend you whether you created this correctly or not. Extensions and applications is like plugins. Any plugins needs to be installed. Like for example, in this machine, you want to install any antivirus related software plugins, then you can able to install by selecting here lot of plugins. If you see agent for cloud workload protection, agent for Windows Server monitoring, lot of third party tools kind of agents, or we call it as a plugins, you can install. And availability and scaling. So by default, this is not showing here fault domain because we did not selected availability set. We selected while creating this machine, no infrastructure redundancy is required. So that's why it is not showing anything. So basically, always remember, uh, whenever you are creating a VM at the designing part itself, planning time itself, we need to decide whether that VM should be no infrastructure or availability zone or availability set. Because once you created a VM with no infrastructure redundancy is required, then for that VM, again, you cannot add that VM into the availability set. Okay. If you created availability set, you cannot add that VM into the availability set. Or if you created a VM into the availability set, later on, if you want to move out of the availability set and you want to make it as a no infrastructure redundancy, then also it is not possible. So you need to decide during the planning of creating the VMs or designing time itself, you need to decide which VMs should be placed under which availability. Okay, whether it's availability set or availability zone or no infrastructure is required, redundancy required. So here nothing is showing because we selected no infrastructure required. Now the same machine, if you want to add into one of the availability set, then it is not possible. You need to create a new VM, and while creating that VM, add that VM into the availability set, and whatever the data disk, just now we practiced it, snapshot, restore with the snapshots, and run that VM inside the availability set. That way it is possible. And configuration, licensing. See here, yesterday or day before yesterday, we were talking about licensing. In case if a client is having licensing with Azure hybrid benefit, means they know that they are going to move to the cloud based upon this Azure hybrid licensing. If they bought for their servers, then half of the price they can reduce, because if Azure is charging 1 rupee for 1 hour for a server, out of that 1 rupee, 49%, like 49 paisa, is going for a licensing only. So if you have already licensing, then you can select yes sir, and I confirm I am eligible Windows or licensing with software assurance. Then half of the money will be reduced in the billing section. And identity property, these all already we discussed, like auto shutdown while we are creating servers. We discussed few things. And when we talk about again, we'll create VMs whenever we practice networking concepts. Also, we create VMs and run command. Instead of logging to the server, we can execute the commands from here itself. Run command, especially when we create Linux machines. At that time, I'll show you how to execute commands through this run command. And monitoring alerts. All this server monitoring will be available here. Alerts you can configure what kind of metrics you want to check. All this will be available over here. Okay. So this is about the VMs. So please do practice, and from Monday onwards we'll start networking concepts. First, as I mentioned, initially it will be like basic networking concepts, and then we'll go and talk about the VNet and the creation of the VNet. So this is about today's session. What is virtual machine scale set? Virtual machine scale set is auto scaling. That we have separate session. After finishing all the networking concepts, we'll talk about virtual machine scale set. Rajnikant, you can talk to uh, management, like admin team, about your recording. Where is that? Okay, I am just pinging you. You can contact this. Where is that? Okay, I am pinging in the chat. You can contact them regarding recordings. Yeah, correct, Mahavir. If you lose, if you lost Wednesdays, then you need to register with the Sundays one. Jagadish, I saw data disk in your example. Which is OS disk? What it has? OS disk contains operating system. Prasanna Kumar, how many sessions per network? Maybe 10 sessions, I think so. For Azure, you can use yeah, for automation, you can use ARM templates. Yeah, in the Muki, correct. You can automate all these things with the Terraform or ARM templates also you can do. Change the region of this app to different region. Rajesh Chopra. You can give a try, Rajesh, whether to keep in a different region and from there you can restore it or not. Yes, Agoro, can it be reswapped back to the old disk? Yes, you can reswap. Until unless you don't delete the disk, you can reswap. How much it would cost for snapshot storage? Based on what you selected, whether you selected a standard SSD, premium SSD, or zone, right? Zone redundant. If you select standard SGD, then it will be very less. The price you need to check in the Azure portals itself. They will give you the pricing list of how much of storage, like what is the snapshot size, and what option you selected, standard SGD, premium SSD. Based on that, you can go to the Azure portal for the pricing list. They will give you. Would it cost for snapshots? Yeah, snapshot it will cost. If you select standard SGD, then lesser cost because it's a low, cheap hardware. Okay, a snapshot is full read-only copy of virtual hard disk. Yes, a snapshot is full read-only. Read-only means you cannot go and write inside the snapshot. That's why they mentioned it's read-only. So the disk it is taking the complete backup and you are using it to for the restoration purpose. That's it. If I forget password, you try, Pankaj. There is a solution. You can restore the password. Okay. You try. If you cannot try, then let me know on Monday. Ping me before starting the class. I will tell you. Image means you can create a VMs with the image. Basically, snapshots are like with the snapshots also we can like as of now I shown you with the help of snapshot. If you took the OS this one OS disk snapshot, with that snapshot also, if you create a disk and that disk you go and attach it to the another VM, when you power on, you can able to uh, create a new VM. But image is like a completely, like when we are creating the VM at the time we selected the image file, right? So that format it will be there. Whenever you are planning to do auto scaling, automatically one new machine should be created. So it should have one image. So that image, your custom image, whatever you created, or else native images which are providing by the Azure group, that is also an image. Okay. So those are images, not disks. But here snapshot means it contains a disk. Whatever the disk is contains the image like OS data that belongs to that specific disk. Yeah, are we considering snapshot? Snapshot is not a complete backup. We have another backup scenario is there, but sometimes we can take snapshot of the disks also, complete disk. Backup means what? It will go and take the backup of the data, not disk level. Okay, so this is disk level snapshots we are taking. Is resizing a dynamic operation? I did not understand. Or VM restart will happen during what operation? Dynamic operation means I will change CPU to, so will that happen on fly? No, previously it used to take a reboot compulsory. Mostly it will require reboot. On fly it is not possible to resize it. It will shut down and start the VM. If I delete data from the, if what it is, if I delete data from the someone, Pawan Kumar, will it create new disk every time? Yeah, you need to create new disk. What the step-by-step process do we need to restore 4 times? 4 times? Why you are going to restore 4 times? In what scenario the requirement to restore 4 times? So whenever the data is deleted, then you will restore. Disk is lost and do we need to restore Sunday? Yeah, I think already answered this. For backup, if it to full backup on Sunday and then daily took incremental back, if disk is lost of Wednesday, do we need to restore Sunday first? Yes, that is correct. Basically, in real time, we don't prefer. Again, it depends. If you have another level of backup, like taking the data of your backup operating system, sorry, data disk related stuff, then you don't need to take snapshots regularly. Sometimes, if any changes is going to happen, like for example, you are doing any changes in the OS level or activity you are doing, then and there you can take a snapshot and do the activity. If that doesn't work, if it fails, then you can restore. That way sometimes it required. In organizations, mostly the data will be backed up by the some other mechanism which we'll discuss in the backup class. Okay, so that is main important. Snapshots are not regularly take the snapshots in the real time. See, if you delete the VM means what here? Always remember, VM contains CPU, RAM and disks. If you mentioned disks also to be deleted during VM deletion, then disks will also get deleted. Your main data is inside the disks. If you don't select that option, means VM will get deleted, but still your disks are available. So if you create a new VM, attach these disks to those VM, then you can see the data. But if your disks also got deleted along with your VM, then you can't get it. CPU RAM, you can get it later on, but wherever the data is there, the disks, if it get deleted, you cannot get it back. Do we have class on Monday? Yeah, but I think you guys can join in the evening, right? Daytime completely. I don't know whether May Day is holiday or not for IT employees. I don't know. It will be in the evening. Yeah, you can join on Monday. That is possible, giving one disk, but not in this way. That is called Azure file concept. It's like an NFS. You know NFS. That way it is possible. Sharing a disk. There is a separate concept called Azure file share. So with that, you can able to create a volume or disk and attach it to multiple VMs. So it's like an NFS only, Samba or NFS. Okay, guys. So we'll meet on Monday. Have a nice weekend. Thank you. Thanks everyone for joining.